Make sure you have today's date. How weird is it to write 2018? Kind of weird. All right, we're going to look at multiplication properties of exponents. Property of exponents. It should be in your middle cubby. Okay, so in general, this would be an example. So a to the x power, where x is your exponent. Does anyone know what the a is called? Has a name.
The base number?
It's a base, yep. So you have your base and your exponent. And then the base and the exponent together also have a name. Does anyone know what that name is? The base and the exponent together have a name. This is known as the power. Okay, so the whole thing together, the base and the exponent, is known as a power. Now you already gave me some examples. So for instance, 2 to the third is the same as saying what? 2 times 2 times 2, which is? What is 2 to the third power? 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Now, we dealt with exponents a little bit last semester, and one common mistake that I see is people will do 2 times 3 and give me 6. Okay, remember it's saying the base multiplied the number of times based on your exponent. So 2 times 2 is 4, times another 2 is 8. So be careful of that. How would I write out x to the third power? X times x times x. Okay, you have 3 x's. Now it's still x to the third, but if you wanted to expand it, that's how you would expand it. This next one is going to be the most important and the most missed. What does x plus 2 squared mean? What should I do there? X plus 2 squared. I heard like 15 different answers. Carson. Okay.
So it's x plus 2, which comes out to like 2x, right? Or 2x, and then the power, I think.
What else do I do past this? Alexis? Okay, so what Alexis just did is she basically distributed that 2 in. That is not allowed, which is where the mistake comes in. You are not allowed to distribute that 2 in with that plus sign in the middle. What this is saying is x plus 2 times x plus 2. You just have 2 of them. Okay? Most common mistake. So I want you to highlight, circle, underline, box, like whatever you need to do. You need to know how to do this, because next week we're actually going to deal with problems like this where we multiply out x plus 2 squared.
Couldn't you just distribute the 2?
So if you distribute the 2, what are you going to get? You're going to get, if you distribute the 2, you're going to get x squared plus 4, which is not the answer of x plus 2 squared. Okay? So make a note to yourself. You are not allowed to distribute this 2 of an exponent because of that plus sign. If there's a minus sign, you also cannot distribute that in. Okay? Pluses and minuses don't allow you to what we're calling distribute. It's not even really distributing because it's not a coefficient out front. So if it's in parentheses, you're just going to write it out that many times. So if this said x plus 2 to the 5th power, you would write x plus 2 5 times in parentheses. Okay? What is the difference, or is there a difference between negative x squared and negative x squared. What is the difference, or is there even a difference between these two? Anyone have an idea? Jacob?
So for parentheses negative x squared, there's going to be 3 parentheses negative x squared, and then for negative x squared, there's just going to be negative x times negative x.
Say the first one again.
There's going to be 2 parentheses of negative x.
Okay, so okay, so you're saying write it like this. Okay, so negative x times negative x is positive x squared. I'm okay with that. You don't need the parentheses there once you separate them. So I could just write negative x times negative x, and I'm still going to get positive x squared. So I'm okay with that. What about with this one? Is my answer, what's my final answer going to be? What happens here? Anything? Okay, so this is attached. So that x squared is attached. The negative is just going to be out front. So my final answer here is negative x squared. Now I'm going to show you the difference when we look at numbers, and maybe it'll make a little bit more sense. So what if I give you, how about negative 2 to the 4th power versus negative 2 to the 4th power? So what do you think those final answers are going to be? So I want you to simplify them completely. What do you think the final answer is going to be? I remember last semester we talked a lot about parentheses, and if you typed something in and your parentheses were off, it messed up your answer. This is the same thing. So what is this saying? What is it telling me to do? What's inside the parentheses? So, anyone? No? Okay. So this one's saying I'm going to multiply negative 2 4 times. Whoops. Right? Just like we did up here. Multiply negative x twice. I'm going to multiply negative 2 4 times. What's negative 2 times negative 2? 4. 4 times negative 2? Negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 2? Positive 16. So this one is a positive 16. Okay. This one, that negative is not a part of that 2. It just is going to sit out front. And this is telling me 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So what's 2 times 2? 4 times 2 times 2? 16. And I'm going to attach that negative to the front. Parentheses make the world of difference. Now, if you actually plug it into your calculator and you plug it in properly, so if I plug it in with parentheses like I see it, so negative 2 to the 4th power, I'm going to get a positive 16. If I take away those parentheses, I'm going to get a negative 16. Okay, parentheses make the biggest difference. So just be cautious of that. Those are going to be the hardest of these problems, is understanding negatives and where they go. Okay? Questions on that? Okay, so let's look at some properties. And I guarantee you've seen these properties before. Like in, I don't know, 6th grade maybe? It was longer ago for me than it was for you. Power property. Once I show you them, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember. Hopefully. So if I'm multiplying 2 powers together, so a to the m times a to the n, where my bases are the same, my base in this case are both a's, what do I do with those exponents? I think I heard it. You add them. So a to the m plus n. You add those exponents together as long as the bases are the same. So if I give you 3 squared times 3 to the 7th, what is that answer going to be? 3 to the 2 plus 7? 9. 3 to the 9th. And then in your calculator, you use your caret button and you find the actual final answer. 3 to the 9th power, you multiply out 3 times 3 times 3, 9 times. Okay? Do we remember that property now that we've seen it? Power of a power property. So here I have one base, or I have a full power. I have a to the m power, all to the nth power. What do I do with these exponents? You multiply them. So this is a to the m times n. So you multiply them. So if I give you 5 squared to the 4th power, what would that be simplified? My base is 5 to the 8th. And then again, you would plug 5 to the 8th in your calculator and get a large number. Does that one look familiar now that you've seen it? Yeah? Okay, last one for today, last property for today is power of a product. Property. So here I have, well, I'm not going to tell you what I have. What do you notice? That's what I should ask you. What do you notice about this one compared to the other ones? The bases are, they're getting multiplied and they are different from each other. I have 2 bases. I have an A and a B, right? So I can't really use these properties up here because this would involve the same base. These are different. But any guesses on what I might be able to do? Distribute's probably not the right word, but we'll use it. We are going to attach this m, the exponent, to both of the bases. So a to the m times b to the m. You are allowed to attach it because of the multiplication property. Up above where I said you couldn't, it was because of the addition sign. Okay, so for multiplication you can, addition, subtraction you cannot. And then we're not allowed to go any further because those bases are different. So if I give you something like 2x to the 3rd all to the 6th power, how many bases do you see? 2. What are my 2 bases? 2 and x. So I'm going to attach this exponent on the outside to both of my bases. So it's 2 to the 6th power times x to the 18th. You multiply. 3 times 6 is 18. Do you think I can leave my answer like that? No. What do I need to simplify? The 2 to the 6th. Can someone tell me what 2 to the 6th is?
Wait,
64. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Yeah, 6 times. So my final answer is 64x to the 18th. Okay, so you always need to simplify your numbers, and then you have your variables at the end. Now, if we have more than one variable, which we will see in a second, you need to make sure that your variables are in alphabetical order. So x comes before y. M comes before n. Okay? I'm going to give you 7 problems that I want you to try. You can do it by yourself. You can work with your group. But let's see if you can apply the properties to these problems. And you are going to simplify all the way. So if there are no variables in your answer, I want like a final number completely multiplied out. So again, take a second. You can talk with your group, but I want you to try to complete these 7 problems. Number 1, what did you do? Okay, so I heard 2 different things. So let me go with Claudia real quick. She said she added the exponent. So what did you get?
3 to the third.
3 to the third. I'll take that because there's really a 1 there. And what is 3 to the third? 27. So no matter what, you should have gotten 27 as your final answer. Some of you may have done 3 squared, which is 9, and then 9 times 3, which is 27, and that's fine too. Okay? So if there is no number there, then a 1 is there. Okay, so if there is no number, then it's a 1. Because 3 to the first power is just 3. What do I get when I do y to the 6th times y to the 3rd? What do I do with these exponents? You add them. So y to the 9th. Okay, so let's look at the difference between the 2. When I am multiplying 2 powers together, that's when I add the exponents. When I have 1 power raised to another exponent, that's when you multiply them. Okay, so here I have 2 different powers. Here I only have 1. Do you see the difference between the 2? Okay. What is this one telling me to do? I don't want the answer yet. What is it telling me to do? How would I expand that out? Like, what are you doing? -3 times -3 times -3, which is a -27. -3 times -3 is a positive 9. 9 times -3 is a -27. Okay. Now number 4 was a little tricky. Someone tell me what you did first. Okay. If you multiply the exponents first and you do -4 to the 4th power, you're probably going to get it wrong because of that negative sign. Did someone do something different? What do you mean you did the parentheses first?
Oh, I kind of did the other way, but then I just realized you have to do. I remember like the please excuse my Aunt Sally something.
Okay, so the PEMDAS?
Yeah, yeah. And so then you do -4 to the 2nd.
Okay, so what is -4 squared? So ignore this 2 on the outside. What is -4 squared in this case? If all this is gone, all I have is -4 squared. What is that? -16. This 2 is just attached to the 4. There is no parentheses around the -4, so that negative is not attached. So if I just do what's inside, it's a -16. And then I can square that. What is -16 squared? Positive 256. Because the negative is in parentheses attached with the exponent on the outside. The negatives are the hardest ones. Okay? This also could mean that I have -4 squared and I have 2 of them. Right? That means the same thing. Does that look a little nicer to give you that -16? So you'd get -16 here, you'd get -16 here. 16 times, or -16 times -16 is a positive 256. So you can look at it either way. Okay, the negatives are the hardest. Number 5, what do we do with these exponents? Are we just really tired or? Okay, we're almost done. Multiply them. Thank you, Jessica. So we're going to multiply exponents. So you should have gotten x to the 4th, y to the 6th. Yeah? X to the 4th, y to the 6th? Okay, great. You're confused?
No.
Okay. Number 6. How many bases do you see? 3? What are your bases? 3, x, and y. So I'm attaching this 2 to all 3 bases. So it's really 3 squared. And then if I attach it to the x, what do I get? X to the 1 times 2 is 2. Y to the 6th. Okay, so I attached it to all 3 bases. Now there's one last thing we have to do. What do you think we need to simplify? The 3 squared, which is 9. So you should have 9x squared y to the 6th as your final answer. So kind of like the end of our semester last year, the math is not difficult, but you have to understand the rules, right? Which is what we dealt with when we were dealing with circles. The math wasn't hard, but you needed to know the rules. Last one, where do you think I should start? The parentheses, okay? So I'm just going to rewrite this first part. I'm going to write x squared y. Just rewriting it for now so I can deal with this. What happens here? What do I get? X squared y squared. Okay, so I attach that 2 to both of my bases. Now can I simplify anything else? You can combine the x's and you can combine the y's. And what am I going to do with those exponents? How do I combine them? You add them together. So you should end up with x to the 4th, y to the 3rd. Good.